So Beaver was born out of your agency, and then you decided to go all in on it. And that was like 2, 3 years down the journey when you built some projects with it. Any interesting, crazy projects you came across you can remember
Um,
now?
one of our original clients back then ran a CrossFit blog.
Mhm.
We were talking before you mentioned you're on a personal health
Yes, I am.
kick.
Yes,
Um, I know CrossFit still exists,
yes, it
but
does.
I think it's maybe like during this time, it was when CrossFit was hot, right? Like,
Exploding. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There used to be that joke you'd say, like, how do you know if someone does CrossFit? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Like it was a really popular thing to talk about.
Some tools don't just improve how we work with WordPress, they define an entire era of it. Today's guest helped build one of those tools. Welcome to WP Legends. I'm Gautam, the co founder of Seahawk Media, and today I'm excited to sit down with Robbie McCullough, one of the co founders of Beaver Builder, a plugin that needs no introduction in the WordPress community. Since launching in 2014, Beaver Builder has become one of the most trusted and stable page builders in the ecosystem. Known for its clean code, developer friendliness, and rock solid performance, it has empowered agencies, freelancers, and businesses to build beautiful WordPress websites fast, visually, and without limitations. Robbie has been instrumental in not only building the product but also shaping the culture around it, one rooted in community, transparency, and thoughtful development. Today, we'll dive into the journey behind Beaver Builder. Robbie, welcome to WP Legends. Let's go back to 2014. What made you start Beaver Builder?
Wow, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. Flattered.
Thank
Let's see, 2014. God, feels like such a long time ago now.
you. Yeah.
Uh, so my two business partners and I had a web agency called Fastline Media,
Mhm.
and we were building sites on WordPress. We were building sites on a platform called SmugMug,
Mhm.
and we it was that during that time period, like page builders and WordPress were like, I remember going to a WordCamp and telling people we were working on a page builder, and everyone kind of cringed. Everyone was kind of like, "Ooh, like that. I don't like that. Like those tools are always horrible."
Yeah.
Um, and we sort of had that same approach, but then we had a client that wanted to use a page builder for one of their sites so they could edit it themselves after we delivered it.
Mhm.
And we started exploring the options that were out there, and we didn't find anything we liked, but we did like the process of delivering a website to a client that was editable. Um, so yeah, long story long there, I guess, is that we didn't find something that we liked, but we liked the idea, so we started working on our own.
That's pretty cool. So tell me something. Wasn't it tough at that time to convince, potential new customers or other agencies you came across with the concept of page builders because it was relatively new?
Yeah, it was what was tough about it was that there was a lot of legacy tools that really didn't do a good job,
Mm,
and I think that people had a lot of trauma from using
mm,
like Microsoft Front Page was one of the ones, and like Adobe Dreamweaver. Um, I
yeah.
remember like Dreamweaver was the one I probably had the most experience with, and for those that maybe weren't around during that time or don't remember, it was an Adobe product, so think Photoshop, Illustrator.
Yep.
It had that kind of similar Adobe interface, and you could lay out a design visually. And but like where it got really messy was in the back end code. So you could lay your site out and you could upload it, but then that was also the era of like pixel perfect design and
Mm,
browser inconsistencies. So, it might look good on your like Internet Explorer, but then you go over to Chrome or Firefox
oh,
it wouldn't
yes.
look right. And so you try to get into the code to fix something, and it was just like a jumble of mismatched code and just a lot of weird hacks to get things like positioned correctly and it became a real pain in the butt to
Yeah.
use beyond just that initial
So
like
at that time,
visual.
was your agency coexisting at that time?
When we started Beaver Builder,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In the
yeah,
first year.
yeah, yeah, we had a cool experience during those early years where the plan originally was just to build Beaver Builder as an internal tool.
Okay.
And so as we were building it, we were using it on client sites. And then as it sort of evolved and matured, we decided that we might be interested in productizing it.
Mm.
The goal was not to release a product. The goal was to build an internal tool, and then the idea to kind of build it for a greater audience and sell it came later.
Well, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's amazing. So it was so Beaver was born out of your agency, and then you decided to go all in on it. And that was like 2, 3 years down the journey when you built some projects with it. Any interesting, crazy projects you came across you can remember
Um,
now?
One of our original clients back then ran a CrossFit blog.
Mhm.
We were talking before you mentioned you're on a personal health
Yes, I am.
kick.
Yes,
I know CrossFit still exists,
yes, it
but
does.
I think it's maybe like during this time, it was when CrossFit was hot, right? Like,
Exploding. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
There used to be that joke you'd say, like, how do you know if someone does CrossFit? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Like it was a really popular thing to talk about and do. And so, yeah, this client of ours had built a blog. It was more than a blog. Like he had like kind of some light web apps, and it was also sort of like a community around CrossFit. And during that time, the website really blew up. So that was one of like the higher traffic sites that we worked on and higher budget. So it was a fun site to be a part of.
Mhm.
And we got to do it was interesting because we were, working on client sites and building Beaver Builder,
Yeah.
but we were able to kind of like reuse a lot of code that we were
Mhm.
doing for clients, and there was a little bit of like a, weird sort of marriage between like the work we were doing for clients and Beaver Builder and kind of like this, oh, this is cool. Like our modules, we're like, oh, we built this, slider for this client.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah, yeah.
can take some of that code and put that into Beaver Builder.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And who came up with the name Beaver Builder? What's the
You
story
know,
behind
I think it was collaborative.
it?
We
It's a very memorable name, I must say. The brand is phenomenal, and the mascot logo. I'm actually obsessed with animals. I have a beagle at home, so like that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, it came from that school of like Reddit, and Hitmonk was another one. Like I think it
Okay.
was Alexis Ohanian who came up with the Reddit kind of robot caricature, and he had another startup or two where like kind of cutesy logos um, were kind of on vogue at that time.
Got it.
And I remember hearing the story, and I believe it's him. I could be mistaken in who it was, but he won like a startup competition. And I
Okay.
don't know if it was with Hipmunk, which was like a flight tracking tool back then.
Okay.
But the person on stage next to him who got second place kind of muttered like, "Oh, well, anyone can make a cute logo," and like, they were kind of jealous about it. And he's like, "Well, why don't you make a cute logo?" And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So
yeah, it
just
was a
name
funny
thing.
story. Like we came up with the idea for the name, but then we were like, we weren't originally like, oh, this is it. We were like, I don't know. Like it's funny, but it might not, people might not take us seriously. It might be too cutesy. Um, but we were working with a logo designer at that time,
Okay.
and we told him the idea, and he came back with the caricature, the beaver
Okay.
caricature.
Yep.
And when we saw that, it was kind of like, this is it. Like we thought it was fantastic. Like it just
Mhm.
nailed it. It was cute. It was memorable. It was simple enough that it made for a good. That's this little guy. I have him
Yeah,
in
I can
tie-dye,
see
but
that. I can see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty
yes.
cool. That's good. I think branding and name is everything. If you don't have a memorable name, especially in this new world where there's so much competition, which leads me to my next question. What do you think, like, as in your words, what makes Beaver Builder truly stand out in the space that now includes Elementor, D-Wave, Bricks, Breakdance, and other new page builders coming in the market?
Yeah, it's challenging these days because the market is so much more saturated.
Yes, of
I
course.
think that or a few of the things that kind of set us apart are we've always had a really strong focus on code quality, but particularly around like backwards compatibility,
Okay.
and making sure that we kind of release updates at a pace where we have enough time to test. Um, and like one of the things that we have tried to avoid over the years is having an update go out that breaks people's sites.
Mm.
We've had that experience from the agency days when you are managing, 10, 20, 100 sites. You hit auto update
Yeah.
and, some piece of code has a conflict and it breaks your site, like you get the white screen or the, whatever it is, there's something off on the visual. Um, that's been something we've worked really, really hard to avoid. So
Yeah.
the other thing I think is we have a fantastic customer support team. We hope that nothing ever goes wrong, but if it does, we've taken a lot of pride in having a really competent and
I can vouch for
fast.
that. Seahawk Media are Beaver Builder customers for years and years, and my
Thank you.
team can always compliment, always say good things about Beaver for sure. So yes, we can vouch for that.
Yeah, it's tough in like the new kind of era of page builders. Uh, like one of the comparisons I like to think of is like a coffee roaster or maybe like a
Hmm.
craft brewery, right? Like you've
Hmm.
got your Budweiser or your Starbucks, you've got these kind of massive corporate companies with the goal of having like gigantic distribution. But then you've got your local coffee shop that kind of, sources their own beans and roasts them.
And
Um,
hand brew pour overs, V60,
yeah, yeah,
AeroPress.
exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, like the latte art, right?
Yes,
Like
they all coexist. Listen, I was just speaking with somebody the other day. For the life of it, I don't remember now, but we were just discussing the same thing. Okay, I walk maybe like less than quarter of a mile, and there's the street, Queensway in London. Okay, there are at least 7 or 8 cafes, and they all do well. All of them have queues. All of them. One of them has an app with a loyalty system. One of them is a mom and pop, just a tiny Japanese owned one. And I
Hmm.
think they have the highest queue, like the massive queue every morning because they manually brew their coffee. You can talk to me about coffee every day. By the way, I'm a caffeine addict. I'm proud of it. So I totally can relate to that for
Cheers.
sure. Exactly. And I think you're right. But which leads me to another question. Nowadays with page builders, plugins, themes, everybody's jumping into the AI boat. I know somebody will say AI is just trendy and we can create it and it may or may not be used. But what are your thoughts? Are you doing something in the background? Are you going to be doing something with AI soon? Maybe it's already there. I don't know about.
It's a wild time right now,
Yes.
and it's been super fun. I've kind of run marketing for Beaver Builder,
Yeah.
and I'm less involved with the product development.
Hmm.
But I can tell you from the marketing side, like we've been having a blast
Hmm.
exploring AI and leveraging it and just kind of participating in this new world. Like it feels
Yes.
kind of, it
Yes.
reminds me of like the internet back in the day or,
Yeah.
Web 2.0. Like it feels like a pivotal moment.
Mm.
From the product side, we avoided jumping into doing an AI feature or
Mm.
product until the dust kind of settled.
Mm.
Um, I think we're getting out of this now, but there was this like it felt like a trend, right? Where, everyone was putting AI features into their product, like kind of forcing a square peg through a round hole, if you will. Like we didn't want to just like bolt on an AI feature just to say we had that. We've been experimenting a lot behind the scenes where I'm really interested in AI with WordPress and Beaver Builder
Hmm.
is the idea of like one having a GPT that knows our code base and has a lot of experience and data to train off of, so that if you are like writing CSS or writing markup, something that can like assist in the code. Like
Mm.
I think the visual design, like honestly, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to keep up with some of these large
Oh yeah.
companies on,
Yeah.
like creating visual designs. And I think those will always be available. Like, you can go to Gemini or ChatGPT or whichever your kind of flavor of choice is, and get the inspiration for
Mm.
designs, color palettes, imagery, and things like that, and then bring those into Beaver Builder. I love the idea of a GPT that you can use to like write custom code. And I also love the idea of AI being able to operate in the WordPress ecosystem
Hmm.
So like, WordPress, like a lot of our WordPress sites are going on 10, 15 plus years old, and there's all this legacy, like, you know, images that don't have alt tags and, abandoned categories and just all of this kind of like tech debt and loose ends. And I love that, a LLM can like go in and analyze these large data sets and surface things and even fix things like, hey, this is a problem. This is something you can do. Like we can go through all of your links on your site and
Of
show
course.
you which ones are broken, or we can even just fix them for you. Like that's a lot of fun to me is thinking about how we can kind of like optimize our WordPress sites using
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah. I was speaking with the founder of Mela Press, Robert Abela, the other day. Maybe you've heard of them. And
Yeah, yeah.
we were discussing a very interesting topic. He brought it up. I brought it. I don't know. I don't remember, but he brought it up. And it was like AI is like electricity. Okay. Let me explain. Electricity was invented 150 years ago. Okay. And when electricity was invented, light bulbs, fans, televisions, electric cars nowadays, inventions are happening even now. AI is kind of like that. And I related with it so much because so much is happening with AI. Like it's just opening up millions of doors every year. Think about that. It's just a beginning. It's unbelievable what's happening
Absolutely.
what happening with the AI world. Look at what's happening. If you go to like, okay, let me ask you this question, which I ask everybody, okay, and everybody has their own perspective. Where do you think WordPress is going in 5 years? Not two, not 20, 5 years. And consider this lovable. You give comments, and boom, website is ready. Framer, then Figma sites happening, etc. I think WordPress is going to be there for a really, really long time. And I'm bullish, okay, and I have my own perspective, but I would love to hear your perspective. 5 years.
I agree. WordPress is not going anywhere.
Hmm.
It reminds me of like some of those like kind of older programming languages that were used for like, government systems back in the day, like a Fortran or a COBOL. I don't even know if those are like, it's been a while since I've
I
been
know
around code, but
PHP. I know
yeah, yeah,
PHP.
PHP is kind of becoming one of those dinosaurs too, right?
Yeah,
Um, like what I've heard, like there's always jobs if you are an expert in some of these older systems because some of them just never die. They're
yeah,
used on all these like, giant legacy projects that,
yeah.
despite there being more modern alternatives, are never going to get rebuilt. And so, yeah, I agree. Like WordPress isn't going anywhere. I think that in 5 years, I mean, in the context of AI, I think the work that James LePage and like the
Mm.
now Automatic
Yeah.
AI team is doing is really cool. And I think they're working towards some of the ideas I was talking about around like having agents that can operate in WordPress.
Mm.
Um, I'm sure there's going to be a flood of new tools around visual design or content creation. I mean, honestly, what I'm afraid of, and I think what's happening, or maybe it's been happening for years too, is there's like, you know, so much like content being generated with AI.
True.
It's interesting. Okay, maybe that's interesting. Okay, so in 5 years, I wonder, like, I think SEO is changing a lot, right?
Of
And there was a
course.
time when you could be like, spitting out content and hitting those long tail keywords and like getting traffic from SEO, like Google and whatnot. Maybe that's where that like it's going. Like maybe WordPress is going to become less kind of utilized for like sort of spammy like SEO type things because the
Point.
no-click search is becoming popular and uh
Yeah, the AI overview on Google is taking charge. I use ChatGPT for everything. I think everybody uses ChatGPT or Gemini, like you mentioned,
mhm.
first
Yeah.
choice for almost everything. And even preparing quotes and proposals, or you name it, like, every single thing you're using ChatGPT nowadays, and then it actually helps you so I think the SEO landscape is definitely changing. And yes, it is tied into very much with WordPress and the SEO plugins and page builders, needless to say. So I think yes, WordPress is not going to go anywhere. 40% of the internet, yes. But maybe the evolution or the way the plugins are going to be updated are going to be it's going to be so quick. Things are going to happen so quickly. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I got this wasn't my idea, but it's someone I was talking to. Um, in 5 years, I could see there either being a plugin or a theme or some kind of suite of tooling that would bring uh, a chat interface to a WordPress site. So if you go to someone's blog, right,
Yeah.
like they have a history of content that they've written in their voice. But imagine, you could ask them a question and it would be answered by an AI agent that's kind of trained off of their data and answers in their voice. Or, for someone like us, like a software company, um, and it's funny. This is one of the areas where we would like been reluctant to put AI into our support.
Hmm.
Like I think AI is getting to the point where you don't even know the difference sometimes anymore between the
That's so
human and
true.
the
That's so
AI.
true.
But like we
That's so
still
true.
take a lot of pride in having human support agents that are for the most part like, helping like real humans helping you as opposed to because like there's nothing more frustrating when you hit one of those like chat robots when
It's
you're
such a
trying to get
competitive
help.
edge. It's such a competitive edge to have human support. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope it continues to be that way. And but um but yeah, the idea of like, WordPress evolving to look more like a chat interface as opposed to a blog, like a visual, reading
Hmm.
strictly content.
That's cool. Let's switch gears to your team. How big is your team, and are they all remote?
All remote. We're about 20 people.
Right?
We have some contractors we've been working with
Yeah.
for a while and people kind of come and go. But yeah, we stay around about 20.
But they're all remote? They're all in
Yeah. Yeah, all remote. We originally had an office like back in the agency days, the three of us, and then I think we were still at three, and maybe one remote contractor when we decided to go 100% remote. So there's a few of us that are local within an hour or two drive. But yeah, we've got a few employees in the United States, a couple guys in the UK, a
yeah.
couple guys in the Philippines. We got one of our newer employees is in Egypt, which has been
Hmm.
fun. Um, and then one of a
Yeah.
not just one gentleman up in Canada.
Okay. That's nice. And you have a very strong community on, Facebook. I see you have a Discord community, etc. also. So do you take their help to build out new features, roadmap, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. We I think we did like a lot more in the early days. We had this experience with user feedback where we did one of those tools where people could like vote on features for a while, right? It's like there was a few kind of companies or platforms that let you do this. Like you can request a feature and then other people can vote on them. Um, and so that was super helpful. Like we definitely try to get as much community feedback as we can to help shape our roadmap. I think one of the things we learned as we matured as a product and a company is that sometimes that like what people want
Mm.
isn't necessarily like if you're that phrase like if you design by committee, like if you were to
Mm.
design a car by committee, you'd get a Volvo, like you'd never
Yeah,
get a Tesla or a Ferrari. Um, so like learning how to input community feedback, but then still like make the decisions that we think are going to be the best long-term direction has been something that we're like, I wouldn't say challenged, but just learning and evolving over time.
gotcha. And are most of your customers agencies, would you say, or you have a healthy mix of retail customers, etc.? Give me like an idea.
Yeah, yeah, they are. That's another thing that over the years has changed for a while. Like I think our core bread and butter customer is someone that's building a website for someone else, whether that's freelancer or agency.
Hmm.
Um, it's we had a partnership with a big hosting company for a while that was sending us a lot of small business customers. So we still like at that time we had this huge influx of kind of we call them more of your like do it yourselfer, someone who needs a website but doesn't want to pay for it, right? So like, oh, I'll just do it myself. Um, and so we like it during that time period, we're like, oh, how do we like, make the product better for this person? And then that partnership that we had like didn't continue at one point. So we started getting, it's been this sort of back and forth of like currently agency freelancer is our big kind of target customer.
Your massive user base, basically, most of your user base, basically. Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha.
correct.
So you have kept Beaver Builder, you and your co-founders have kept Beaver Builder, working without any funding, etc., right? Is that correct? It's all bootstrapped from day one?
Yep, that's correct.
And what would you say is like the secret to staying steady in this fast-moving market now with respect to page builders?
You know,
Evolving definitely
maybe
is one.
yeah, maybe patience, honestly. I think there's been opportunities to raise money or to bring
Course.
on a kind of large strategic partners. Um, to sell the company. Things
Hmm.
like that have come up. But then there's also been these sort of like existential threats, like, Gutenberg, when Gutenberg
Oh,
got
yes.
announced, like there was all this FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, like, oh, is Beaver Builder even going to exist in a year? And then Elementor's kind of meteoric rise, like similarly, like, oh, are they going to just, be the only page builder? Are they going to become like, is that what WordPress is, right? Like, they've had a fantastic growth story. We give them credit. It's really interesting. But I know that there was some like commentary around people that like discovered WordPress through Elementor and didn't realize that there was like, WordPress was separate from Elementor. Like they just knew
Yeah, very
Elementor.
aggressive marketing on Instagram, etc. Everybody, it kind of helps everybody in some way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That like I agree.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just the patience and like sticking to our guns and just kind of focusing on product, focusing on
Support.
community, focusing on the things that have,
Mm,
got us to the point we are and trying to uh ignore those distractions, which
of course.
granted is
I agree
is
with you.
difficult.
I'm with you on this. I'm 100% with you on this. And I know for a fact, you visit WordCamps. Are you going to be in WordCamp Portland as well, coming up in August?
Yes, the only little slight asterisk is I have a child on the way.
Oh,
Um
wow. Congratulations.
yeah, my partner and I are expecting a daughter. Her due date's at the end of September. So there should be a good,
Is it baby number what?
it is, yeah.
Oh, wow. I had my first last year. She's 16 months. So, and it's a girl. So you are so lucky. You have no idea. And best of luck for the sleep. Sleep as much as you can. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. Congrats as well. Uh, yeah, so that's the only hang up. I haven't booked any travel yet. I'm going to kind of wait till the last minute just in case, like, oh, if my partner
Mm.
Um, if in other times I would go out a few days early, like last year
Of
for
course.
Portland, I took a road trip and I played disc golf at as many courses as I could, and I brought my mountain bike.
Oh, damn.
Um,
Okay.
this year I might just like do a kind of a fly in for a night or two and fly out to be back back
Yeah.
here. But
Of course, totally get it. But the reason I asked this question about WordCamp was like about events. Like historically, have you been visiting WordCamps or any other events, by the way? Because for our listeners and viewers, I want to educate them on how crucial and how good WordCamps are. For example, like I see Hawk Media, we secured our largest ever contract with a tiny WordCamp in Boston 6 years ago, right before COVID. And it was a smaller one, not the big one. So like I was just asking, like, what other events do you go to and what advice do you have about going to events and stuff?
I love events, and I also agree that they're extremely valuable.
Hmm.
It's kind of intangible value, right? Like we were experimenting with sponsorships, and
Yeah.
you pay this chunk of money for sponsorship, and then you don't like, it's not like you pay, a few $1,000s and then within the next month you see your revenues go up a few $1,000s. Like it's not like
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of events. I have similar stories of like meeting partners, meeting like friends and companies that we've been able to learn from and collaborate with. And then we have this kind of circle of like, you want to recommend people that you have a relationship with. So I won't like get into specifics, but the educational and inspirational kind of element of events too. I always tend to come back from WordCamps and other events like inspired and excited to get back into
Yes,
work.
I agree. I share the same feeling. And one of the best conversations happen not at the booths usually. It's always in the hallways
Yeah,
or a Asian food restaurant outside
yeah,
or
yeah,
some
right.
secret speakeasy in that area or something like that. We have the best conversations there. And I hope you can make it even for a day or two for sure. That's
Yeah, I do too.
yeah.
Just to circle back to a press conf happened this
Yeah.
year, which was sort of like a rebirth of the Pressnomics conference. That
I've never
was
been to a press conf
fantastic.
actually. I want to. I want to.
Yeah, it's happening again next year. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit more intimate and business focused. So it's kind of like a word camp, but without, it's sort of like we call it the hallway track, right? Like the people who are there with sponsors or people that are, building WordPress and coming to contributor days. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a focused
Mm.
group.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a fantastic one.
WordCamp next year in Asia is in Mumbai. So I highly recommend you and all of our listeners to definitely try and make your way to Mumbai because you will have the best food of your lives in India.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be another tough one with the young one.
Of course.
But
Maybe make a vacation out of it and go to Goa right after that and enjoy the beach.
that could be fun. Yeah, I love that. Like one of the coolest things I think about word camps and for us the international word camps is
Hmm.
getting to visit new cities, but
True,
having both the infrastructure of the conference to kind of assist, like, this is the hotels that we recommend, these are the restaurants we
true,
recommend,
true.
but then also just the community, like getting to be in a city on the other side of the planet and having friends and people, colleagues that you can go out to dinner with or go walk around town with. That's
I
so special.
I will say this, okay, publicly here. I have made at least one deal, a B2B deal or even a B2C with every WordCamp. Okay.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
it's a small $1,000 account or a six-figure account, it doesn't matter. Okay. And the excitement part and the city part is very important. And I should tell you, this WordCamp in Basel, Switzerland, which you could not make it, I took my daughter also to Basel, and it was her first word camp. And I took her there for an hour, and she was going to all the booths, collecting her swag, and
Yeah,
feeling like a celebrity over there because everybody was like, "Oh yeah, wow, who's this?" And whatever. So
that's
I highly
awesome.
recommend word camps also to everybody. I think it makes a lot, especially the big ones. And if it's one closer to your town, like always make sure. And the Europe one next year is in Poland. Then we have the Mumbai one, and the US one I think is not going to be in Portland again. I don't think so, but maybe whatever.
I think you're right that it
Yeah,
won't
but
be. Yeah.
I want to ask you, like when it comes to Beaver Builder, your company, what project management tools do you use internally? Slack is one of them, I know. What else besides that? Which are
Yeah, we use Slack, we use Asana.
Mhm,
On the marketing side, we use a tool called Planable.
mhm.
And trying to think, I think those are the big three. Trello is another one that
Okay.
it's funny, like we've experimented with a lot of them over the years, and we still have like, there's still a Trello board or two that like is kind of abandoned, but they still exist out there. I use Trello for my kind of personal to-do list.
Mhm.
I think, but yeah, Slack and Asana are the big ones for us.
Gotcha, gotcha. I have a fun one for you. Go back to when you were 18 years old. What advice would you give yourself?
Gosh, 18.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. How did you start your career? Let's go there. Before the
Yeah.
agency. Was it always the agency?
Well, d- yeah, I guess so. Okay, so at 18, I think I was working at like a pizza restaurant at 18.
Oh, wow.
Um, yes, I think what I'd tell myself at 18 is to like follow your passions because that's
Gotcha.
sort of what I always did, but there was a lot of, friction from mentors and parents and whatnot around like, I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't go to college. I did some college, but um I didn't graduate. And yeah, I did some odd jobs as a young person, like restaurants. I was working at a YMCA for many years, just kind of working at the front desk. And that was a cool a cool job for me because I got to have a computer. Like I sat at a computer all day and it was sort of like, not totally okay, legit,
Mm.
but like if there was nothing else to do, I could just kind of, be on the computer. I could browse the
Yeah.
web. Like it was around that time that I decided to start pursuing web design and development as a career. So I could kind
Gotcha.
of hack around on things and learn and explore.
That's how it.
Granted,
That's how it. That's,
also like play video games and like it wasn't all productive.
I posted a video the other day on my socials, and the topic was entrepreneurship is brutal. Okay.
Mm,
But especially for the first 3 years. But once you cross those initial 3 or 4 years, then sky is the limit for sure. It's only the first 3 years that is truly brutal. But you get your own time, your own pace, and then and you can make infinite money if you really hit that one lucky strike. Would you agree?
yeah, well, infinite. Yeah, I mean,
And
I
you
hear
and
what
you
you're
hit it
saying.
and you guys hit it with Beaver, which was born out of your agency. I know so many SaaS companies born out of agencies, and we are trying to do that also at Seahawk Media. We're trying to create several softwares out of our agency. One of them is called Brandy HQ, which is a digital asset management solution for the world. We want people not to use Google Drive, and we want people to use our brandyhq.com, etc. So
Cool.
I think one of the best softwares in the world are always born out of agencies. Anyways, we're coming up on time, and I have one final question for you, which I
Sure.
also ask everybody. Okay, $100 million in your bank tomorrow, no questions asked. What would you do?
100 million in the
No
bank,
questions asked
no
tomorrow.
questions asked.
Will you quit? Will you retire on a boat?
No, no, I don't think so. I mean, okay, this it's a good question. It reminds me of,
Everybody has their own very interesting answers, I must say.
yeah, I wouldn't do anything probably
Yeah.
initially. There was a really interesting Reddit thread, and I think if you just Googled around on this subject, you can find it. But the
Hmm.
idea was like, if you won the lottery,
Hmm.
what's the like kind of strategic way to go about doing that, right?
Hmm.
And the people that commented, there were a lot of like financial advisors, tax advisors. Since it's Reddit, you can tap into the whole world. I
Gotcha.
think there was one or two people who had won or come into large windfalls like that kind of
Hmm.
described their experience. Um, yeah, I wouldn't do anything at first. I
Hmm.
think I would, eventually look for like investment vehicles, of course. I would talk to someone around like tax advice.
Of course.
I would set up, like a trust for family. I'd pay off like, okay, I've never had like I've tried to avoid debt in my life. I'm not the type that will like finance things or
Always a good thing.
leverage debt.
Hmm.
But this office, I'm excited to be doing my first podcast in my new office here. But I just bought a
Nice.
house, so
Okay.
I'd pay off the house. I think the answer you're looking for, though, like one of my dreams has been to get like
Yes.
some land.
All right.
I'd love to have like,
Yes,
several
that's what I was.
acres. With $100 million would probably be like a few hundred acres, maybe out
Hmm.
by the coast.
So you can use your
Um,
mountain bike, so you can use a bike and just roam around.
yeah, like, have chickens and start a farm and build a disc golf course and build like a private
And have
campsite and
beavers there somehow.
beavers.
And a dam there.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, habitat for beavers.
Anyways, it's been a very, very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for being on my show. And I hope to catch you at WordCamp. And I wish you the best of luck with your baby, and God bless you. See you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Gautam.
Bye.